This is just going to be a quick little husbandry video for what many people consider to be the hobby classic, the Brachypelma smithi, bee smithi. I absolutely adore this spider. When I was a kid, this was one of the, actually I believe this was the first tarantula I ever saw. My father would bring me to a local pet shop, and they had a tank like right in the middle of the pet shop. It was kind of basically their like showcase animal because nobody had any of these things. And in the tank was an adult bee smithy, and I remember thinking that was the coolest thing I'd probably ever seen in my life. Also, the most horrifying thing because I was an arachnophobe as a child until fairly recently. But that one always stuck with me. Always thought that thing was amazing. And then being a fan of horror movies, they pop up all the time in horror movies, usually portrayed as being very menacing and scary. They're really overall sweethearts. I'm doing this one to add to my list of the top beginner species because I do believe this is one of the best beginner species. They're very, very easy to keep. You'll see you give them a hide, you give them some dry substrate, that's it, and a water bowl, and they're good to go. The only drawback I would say for these guys is they are incredibly slow growing. I have a little sling that I got several months ago at about a little over a fourth of an inch or a third of an inch long. It's molted once. It's still about the exact same size. Very slow growing. The good thing is, though, this is a spider you're going to have for a very, very long time. Although nobody's quite sure how long they can live, females are thought to live up to 40 years, which is a very, very long time indeed. I'm getting older, so this one might be getting left to my kids. Just a very, very gorgeous spider, hardy spider. There are no particular humidity requirements. I know I read care sheets online. I can't stand care sheets. They drove me nuts when I first got into the hobby, and now they drive me nuts because unfortunately people read them and then I get emails like saying, well, the care sheet said this. The humidity, shouldn't even worry about it. Bottom line, they're going to be good at room temperature. They don't need extra humidity. Do not spray them. This isn't a species you need to wet anything down. I mean, if the water bowl runs over a little bit, so be it. But overall, very, very easy to keep. The temperature wise, they can do 60s. You know, I've had it drop down to 68 degrees. I've heard people that they drop down to 66 or so. I mean, as long as you get a warm period, and honestly, if you want them to grow, it behooves you to keep them a bit warmer. But this is a typical spider that will do very, very well at room temperature without any extra heating or anything like that, unless your house is really drafty and it gets to low 60s or 50s. Again, mine actually, as when I got her, she was about a 3-inch specimen. She did use the hide quite a bit there. Now, not so much. Occasionally, I'll find her in the hide. More often than not, she's sitting right out in the open. This container I've got her in now is like your typical Sterilite, like large shoebox, I think high heel box, whatever. This was actually the home for the one I call the Queen, which is my G. Porteri that I've had for 19 years. It was her home for quite a few years. It's I actually put this one in it. It was only supposed to be temporary, and I ended up keeping her in it for a while. But I am going to switch this up and get her something a little bit nicer, so I can see her a little bit better. She's going to try to make a break for it, so I'm going to get my cover ready. This is one of the species that a lot of people will say is good for handling. Full disclosure, I'm not a huge fan of handling. I personally don't have any interest in handling my tarantulas. I have held my youthless species reds before, but it's more because the things are just so darn cute and they tend to just kind of crawl right out in your hand. But again, I don't see a point in it. I will say when this one was 3 inches, I wouldn't even consider trying to handle her. She was very, very skittish, would fly all over the cage, was very easily panicked. She's calmed down a little bit, but still, if any of my spiders I was going to handle, this would not be it yet. And right now, she's probably about 4.5, 5 inches or so. So again, I know some people have good luck with it. I just don't endorse handling, but this is one of the species that's considered to be tractable and having even enough temperament that some folks do handle them. But again, not my cup of tea. Feeding wise, she doesn't eat a lot. I mean, like a lot of the slower growing species, you don't have to load them up. One large cricket or two a week is usually good enough for her. Grows pretty well. She's molted 3 times in my care. The first time she molted, she had a little bit of trouble, had a little bit of a rough spot in her abdomen. Next time she molted, it went away. But again, just, I mean, you can see the colors are just gorgeous. She has calmed down quite a bit. If I had tried to shoot this video a year and a half ago, she would have been all over the place. But again, the Brachypelma smithi, definitely one I would encourage folks who are just getting into the hobby to check out. The females can be pretty pricey. They run anywhere from 125 for like an inch and a half to 150 for a larger specimen. But again, you're going to have this spider for many, many, many years. Males are thought to live anywhere, but depending on how quickly they grow, can go up to 8 years. So it's still a spider that's going to be around for a long time, even if you get a male. Just a gorgeous tarantula, very easy to keep, and easily one of the top 5 or top 10 best beginner species.